here, and then we have Brenda Mainwaring from Union Pacific. She'll be
over as long as I've been talking to you. I think this is my third time. We talk about Union Pacific, and frankly, the rail industry as a whole sells one thing. We sell service. We don't make things. We don't ship things that we make. We ship things that other people make and that other people need. And the fact of the matter is we were not meeting the expectations of our customers. And with precision scheduled railroading fundamentals, we believe, and we are demonstrating, as Peter has mentioned a couple times through our fourth quarter, that we are better able to meet the expectations of our customers through improved service reliability, reduced network congestion, reduced network complexity. We can really, why are we calling it Unified Plan 2020 as opposed to precision scheduled railroading? It's mainly because we think we can take the good that we see, that we all have observed in precision scheduled railroading, but leave behind some of the things that haven't worked for others. So what I'm going to talk about today is a little bit about how Union Pacific is implementing precision scheduled railroading. So basically, customers care about the car. Customers do not care about the train. Their stuff that they shipped is on a car. Their stuff that they need to get is on a car. They just want to make sure they get that car when they need it, when we said what they would get it. If all we focus on is the train, then we're looking at the wrong thing. So, Unified Plan 2020 is all about changing our focus to the car, not the train. So we're looking at all of our general purpose trains, and we're blending existing train service to make sure that we're thinking about, are those cars getting to the right place at the right time? We're balancing train movements. If we go someplace, we need to come back someplace. We don't want to leave a train there and then go back repeatedly. That's not a good use of crew. That's not a good use of locomotive. So we're going to balance train movements. And we're going to minimize car dwell and car classification events. Okay, so simplify the business model for greater reliability. Again, we have always been focused. Safety, reliability, efficiency. But we were not meeting our standards. We've had a good series of year-over-year success. But we knew we could do better, and our customers certainly knew we could do better. As I said, our customer measurements of satisfaction were not trending in the right direction. So we had to make some changes to really find a new way to deliver on safety, reliability, and efficiency. So we took a clean sheet approach. Where is the car? Where does it want to be? What's the most efficient, reliable, safest way to get it there? We brought all the folks who actually touch that car in the field in Omaha. This was not an Omaha exercise. This was a collective exercise to say everybody who best understands what it is that we are doing to move that customer's freight needs to be in the room. It was a big room. There were a lot of people, a lot of whiteboards, completely did from a clean sheet approach though. So we evaluated our volume by corridor, by geography, regardless of train service. We didn't, okay, let's look at the manifest network, let's look at the shuttle network. We said, let's look at our railroad from the standpoint of corridors, where the traffic is, where it wants to go. And then we built a new transportation plan, hundreds of changes to the T plan, so that we could make sure that we had our train movements aligned with that reliable movement of the car from origin to destination. Driving to greater operating efficiency. Again, I mentioned moving from a train to a car focus, blending those service networks so we're not just looking at the train type, which is our definition, not the customer's definition, and balancing resources so that we're not wasting a crew, we're not wasting a locomotive just in the service of some train that we felt we had to operate the way it's always been operated. The other thing that we're doing that we think makes this Unified Plan 2020 and not just precision scheduled railroading is we are being very deliberate and thoughtful about communication. Instead of implementing and then going and explaining to the customer what we did, we are going to the customer in advance. We're talking to them about what they need. We're talking to them about their resources. We're asking them, are you using your resources, your capital investment, your assets, as efficiently as you want to, as efficiently as you can? And if not, then let's figure out if there's a way that we can work together to improve that efficiency. We provide lots of information to our employees. On our employee internal website, we post our results. They know exactly how we're doing. They know exactly what the expectations are. We obviously provide updates to our shareholders. Yesterday was an earnings release. We give them information that tells them how we're doing. And then we also, my team, Public Affairs, we're out in the communities. We're in Austin. We're in Oklahoma City. We're in Baton Rouge, talking to lawmakers and community leaders about, is this going to change the way that you're experiencing things? Peter and his team know that all those calls that they're getting about blocked crossings, they come to us. My team handles them. We think we're going to get better. We know that we are getting better. Change comes with challenges, right? And then finally, we are developing new tools that help us analyze business as we get prospective customers coming to us to say, can we do what you want us to do while we're continuing to meet the expectations of our existing customers? Okay, so I realize I'm being repetitive, but this is kind of a new paradigm, right? And so I want to make sure everybody is getting all of those components, the critical components to the paradigm. From moving trains to moving cars. That seems fairly obvious, right? Anybody who's worked for a railroad, and there's lots of you in the room, if you've been in operating, you've been looking at train speed. You've been looking at train statistics. To suddenly switch from thinking about the train to thinking about the car is a paradigm shift, and so we're really focused on making sure our employees and our customers understand that switch. Minimizing car dwell. Used to be a car would sit until a train was ready, the right train was ready to pick it up. Now we're going to say, okay, that car has been sitting there too long, and we're going to measure that on a continuous basis so we know how long a car has been sitting, and we focus on that statistic. Same thing goes with car classification events. We don't want to keep handling a car over and over and over again just to make sure that we're getting it on the train that we have considered to be the right train. Let's make sure we are minimizing the car classification events by car. And then locomotive power requirements. We want to, that's the most expensive single asset we've got, is every single one of those locomotives. Why would we not want to use them as efficiently as possible? So we're focusing on making sure that we're not letting locomotives sit idle while they're waiting for the right train to move. So what can our customers expect? Did I say we're focusing on the car and not the train? Car dwell, what does that mean to them? Customers have to build facilities to manage for their transportation needs. They have loading docks, they have access to highways, they have access to railroads, they have rail facilities within their gate. They don't want to have to build a lot of excess space for car dwell, for a car to just sit there. So we're going to work with them to make sure that their assets are well used. We're going to be reliable, we're going to be predictable. We've created a lot of new resources. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But we have a lot of new resources in the age of Amazon, in the computer age that we live in, that helps them know, okay, you're going to get delivery today, and then you're up next. So instead of calling a crew because they think they're supposed to get a train today, they've been told affirmatively, your train is on the way, you're next in line. They can get their crew teed up and ready to go. They can have all of their cars for delivery, for pickup, ready to go as well. And what are we measuring? These are our key performance indicators. This is what we track on a consistent basis to make sure that all of our company, Ron Lindsay said, he's talking about siloed information and siloed performance, and engineering always got the shaft because they didn't have the right information, and operating always wins the argument, right? So we want to make sure all of our departments are aligned on the same KPIs, the same key performance indicators. These look familiar, but they're a little bit different. And if you've worked for the railroad, you've been involved in the rail industry, obviously, you have seen pages and pages of various kinds of reports that we used to keep, right? System velocity and USIS and all these kinds of things that have acronyms that nobody remembers even what they stand for anymore. So we wanted to drill those down to some very compact goals, some KPIs that we knew we could deliver on. Employee safety, of course, as always. top of the list. Our goal is still 0 injuries. That is what we are driving to. Car trip plan compliance. So if we tell a customer you're next on the list, or you're going to get your car today, or this is how we plan on delivering your cars and picking up your cars, did we meet that plan? Pretty straightforward. Yes or no, we met it. What percentage of time are we meeting that car trip plan compliance? Freight car productivity, so cars per carload. How many cars do we have to have on our system in order to deliver 1 carload of goods? Now, you load, you unload, there's always empties, you want to minimize those empties, but how many carloads are on Union Pacific for every single loaded car of goods that we're going to be delivered? That's a new metric. That's a new way of looking at how we're going to get that carload delivered and making sure that we're in line with our volume requirements, recognizing their seasonality. We're not delivering grain the same way the entire year around. We're not delivering consumer goods, although that's beginning to change, right? The peak season, that's sort of a changing dynamic as Amazon has just-in-time delivery. Freight car velocity, so the number of miles a car, loaded and empty, travels every single day. Is it making its way towards its destination in a meaningful way? Very different from system velocity. Different kind of measure. Locomotive productivity, the number of gross ton miles that we move every day for each unit of horsepower in the active fleet. Whether it's in a shop or actually hauling goods, we count it. That's the active fleet. Now, we've moved 1,200 locomotives out of our fleet, out of our active fleet, since August. And we're going to keep doing that. We've moved 16,000 cars out of our inventory. We're going to keep doing that. We've brought car dwell down 4 hours. Those are the measures we're going to keep focusing on. And then finally, workforce productivity. Again, daily car miles per full-time employee. So how efficiently are we working? All right, so we started implementing right out of the box, really. September, October, we brought that big team of folks from the field into Omaha to have a conversation about the first part of the plan, that North-South Mid-America network up along the Missouri-Mississippi River corridor there, right? We implemented that through the fourth quarter. Things went really quite well. And then we decided, okay, phase 2, we started in November of last year. That's the blue. That's sort of the Sunset, the LA-Chicago line. We implemented that. We originally had 4 phases. 1 and 2 went so well that we decided we're going to revise this. We're going to only have 3 phases. So phase 3 launches Monday, next week. And we anticipate that as opposed to the end of 2019, which what we had originally said was our target to be fully implemented, we expect to be fully implemented by the middle of this year. So we're going to have all of our railroad, all of our system running on Unified Plan 2020 by the middle of this year. Now what that means is we've made some other structural changes. Eye chart, I realize, but you can kind of see the colors. We used to have 3 regions, north, south, west. We now have 2, north and south. We used to have 3 regional headquarters, Omaha, Spring, Houston, and Roseville. Now we have 2, Omaha and Spring, Houston. We used to have, most recently, I was talking to somebody this morning who said, yeah, there were 30 service units. Well, most of my railroad career, we had 22-ish. Now we have 12. So we went from most recently 17 to 12 service units. Those are big service units. Those of you who remember like the old Texas Pacific, the old Katy, it's like a whole railroad, right? So our superintendents are managing very large territories. But that's driving some of that decision making down to the service unit level, down to the manager level, so that we're able to make the right people making the right decisions. Engineering, well, so one of the things we're doing to make this happen, if those 12 superintendents had to go to as many meetings in the last half of 2018 and the first half of 2019 as they did in 2017 and 2016, they would never get any work done, right? We just started cutting out meetings. We started eliminating all of those meetings and all of those conference calls that were not value added, they were just check-ins. We started eliminating all of those reports that were consuming rainforests and no one paid any attention to. And no one really noticed. We can operate without reams and reams and reams of reports, without having somebody spend their entire weekend preparing for that Monday morning call. We've got them focused on what's important. We've got them focused on efficiency and reducing duplication of effort and reducing non-critical functions. In terms of engineering, we're really working on more efficient delivery of materials. In terms of reducing the cars on our system, that's something we do. All of you know customers own most of our cars, right? That's something that reducing cars is in part up to them. We can reduce our own cars, and our cars are for the most part materials cars. We are reducing those dramatically so that we don't say, you know, well, I know I'm going to need those tie plates, so I'm just going to put that on the back 40 and I'm going to leave it back there on that track that nobody uses, and then when I need some tie plates, I'll know where they are, except I forgot where they were, so I ordered another carload of tie plates. No more of that. We're going to get rid of all that excess inventory and we're going to reduce the number of cars and be much more efficient in the way to deliver our materials. And then out-of-the-box thinking is really being rewarded. Creativity. The penalty for being wrong, that's not the primary measure. You can have a great idea that doesn't work, and it's not going to be penalized. So we really are driving our employees to think about new ways to do things and get out of the box. Employees really decluttering, taking out low value or unnecessary tasks, and that's across the board. That's not just operating and engineering, that's public affairs. All of us are driving to the same KPI, so we aren't siloed in our own measurement systems, we're all using the same thing. In terms of shareholders, shareholders expect that Union Pacific is going to perform to the top of our ability. That's what we expect to. And if we're not doing that, then we're not delivering what we want, and we're not delivering what the shareholders want. So we're reporting to them and trying to make sure we're meeting their expectations as well. For customers, customers did not love us last year. We were not meeting their expectation. The measure of their satisfaction was not moving in the right direction. The measure of their satisfaction is moving in the right direction now. We used to have this long survey that customers would fill out. How many times have you gotten something from a hotel? How are you doing? And you say, fine. And then you get a question that's like 18 questions long, right? Because you made the mistake of saying, you're fine, I like it. We're not doing that anymore. But we are following that model of net promoter. Not just, did we do okay for you? Did we do so well for you that you're going to tell your colleague, your coworker, your boss, Union Pacific is awesome. You ought to be using rail. We ought to be shipping more by rail. So that net promoter is how we measure our performance now with customers. And the net promoter score is getting better. We want to make sure that we're up there with, you know, Apple. Maybe I shouldn't say Apple right now. So we're up there with some of those really top performing. Southwest, how about that one? We're up there with Southwest as a company that people love. So some of the other things we're doing for customers, giving them new tools. You all can have access to this as well. This is, hang on, I got it here. I'll show it to you on the website on the next one. But this is a new magazine, online magazine, that we just launched this past week, primarily for customers, but it's got all sorts of information that tells new shippers, existing shippers, how to utilize our technology, how to communicate with us and with them in a way that, in a format that makes sense. So this tells you a little bit more, up.com/track record. You can sign up for notifications. It really gives you transportation basics about what is it, how do you ship by rail? How can we improve our logistics? What's happening in the industry? What do you need to know as a customer or an interested party about what's happening in the industry? You can go on Facebook, you can go on Twitter. There's any number of ways that hopefully appeal to all of the people in the room, old heads and young heads alike, in terms of accessing this information. So this is, when you go to the website, this is just a screenshot of what you can see on the website. So for example, what can you ship by rail? Transportation basics. And if you look at, it won't show. Look at that. How cool is that, Peter? As opposed to the laser that doesn't work. See that one right there? It says, "Are you a rail fan?" So you might want to take that quiz, find out if you are a rail fan. Hopefully all of the folks in the room are. Okay, I have like 5 minutes for any questions. He's going to give you the microphone.
This is modeled on Hunter Harrison's situation with respect to precision scheduling that he implemented most recently at what?
I'm going to just
CSX?
flat out say yes. But the reality is, I mean, I don't need to be coy about that. The reality is not everything went perfectly, right? I mean, that plan evolved over a series of implementations at railroads. I really hope that Union Pacific, having been around a long time, by the way, this is our 150th anniversary, the driving of the Golden Spike this year. Yes. I really hope that Union Pacific in 150 years has learned how to learn from things that work. So yeah, it's modeled after that.
There was an article in this week's journal concerning how there were tough implementation schedules, but that ultimately it had ironed out. You know, so it seems to be hitting on all 8 cylinders at this point.
It does appear to be. You know, we are trying to be very deliberate about the implementation. The fact of the matter is, this is the 21st century. We are in the age of Amazon. All of us who are in this room know that transportation, Alan's probably going to come up here and talk about autonomous trucks. We've talked a little bit. Transportation is, we don't even know where we're going, but we know that we're in the 21st century. And I think what you're seeing is the railroads saying, hey, we've been around 150 years, we're going to be around another 150 more. We have adapted every single time there's a change in transportation, and we're doing it this time.
And one last question. With respect to the precision scheduling issue, many people here are interested in passenger rail. Was passenger rail, was that a consulted, aspect with respect to precision scheduling? And if not, can that happen in the future?
You know, we have an obligation to Amtrak. We are well aware of the obligation to Amtrak. The fact is, if we are more reliable and we are more efficient, then on-time service for Amtrak is more efficient and more reliable as well. Anything else?
So you would be agreeable with respect to future communications on that?
I'm sure that we are talking to them.
Okay.
We have a team who is responsible for our alliance with Amtrak, and I'm absolutely sure that they are talking about these things with Amtrak.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Oh. Drew, where are you? That fellow right back there. Yes. Great. Thanks, everybody.